Newcastle 2, Manchester United 1. I'm joined by Stephen Howson. Steve, first loss under Michael Carrick. How are you feeling?
Been coming, mate.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, I took a bit of flack a few weeks ago. I can't remember which game specifically, but it's been crap for probably 3 or 4 weeks. And I think you came on one of these all chipper, and I shot you down, and the audience weren't too pleased about it because I said it wasn't a good performance. But they've not been good performances for weeks, and that's why this has been coming. And people want to bury their head in the sands, but like, oh, but we won. Yeah, but let's analyse how the game actually went, because as I keep saying, you eventually get the results that your performances dictate, good or bad. So if you're playing well, the results aren't quite there, you can be a bit chipper about it, going, I know it's a results business, but the performances are there, you'll eventually start getting the results. But that goes the other way as well. And even if the results are there, but the performances aren't, eventually you're going to start getting the results that you deserve. And tonight, that's how it happened. I expected Newcastle would start bright, 20 minutes or so, probably punch themselves out, but then United never really established dominance or risk in the game. So we got what we deserved.
You mentioned establishing dominance and risk. After the red card, it didn't really ever feel like Newcastle were down to 10 men. There's a couple of spells where United had a lot of possession, but certainly the first 20 minutes of the second half, Newcastle had more of the ball than we did. It was a game where we struggled to really impose ourselves for any large sort of parts of it. What do you think went wrong? Why do you think we struggled to look like we had an advantage? Why did we struggle to win or get any points from the game?
We didn't do anything different. You know, when you go down to 10 men, you kind of mentally go, I'm going to have to do someone else's running here now. You know, I'm going to have to fight harder. I'm going to have to make sure we win those second balls. I'm going to have to play a little bit more aggressive, maybe. And United never really got, I don't even know if we got into first gear out of neutral, let alone into second gear. And that's what it's been for a few weeks. Like, it's been a little bit slow to the punch in terms of making changes. And I will absolutely empathise with, you haven't got a ton of options on the bench. But if Malacia was the answer, what the fuck was the question? You know, you've got Kokonki on there, you've got Heaven on there. You know, Heaven has at least featured in the last year and a half. Like, I think that would have been someone that would have been more suited to coming on, regardless of what you wanted them to do. You had more advanced players on there. You know, look, when you're bringing on Ugarte to try and score you a goal, you fucked it anyway, aren't you? Realistically, you know, that just shows you the complete lack of options that are open to us. But we didn't gamble quick enough.
When we talk about gambling, what would you have liked to have seen in real terms? More players further up the pitch, more risky subs. I guess, like you said, there weren't really too many riskier subs he could have made. How would you have liked that to sort of pan out?
You got 11 days off, right? Why are you taking players off for a rest? Unless you think that they've not got another 20 minutes in them. You know, I would like to have seen, you know, the players that he took off, some of the players that he took off. Can we not just, like, take a fucking defender off and throw Ahmad in? Like, they're down to 10 men. Like, not even on any of our defensive corners where there's now not, they're down a player, and we didn't leave. Like, literally, think about how impactful this is. They've only got 9 outfielders. If you take one player and go and stick him on the halfway line, you've essentially taken 3 players out of the box. 4, really, because of the one that's been sent off, because they're going to go and drop 2 back, and we didn't. Like, you have to play with a little bit of risk. I'm fucking sick of everyone being in the box at corners, because you can win it, and do you know what? Senna Lemon's actually so good at claiming those high balls. Like, think back to Peter Schmeichel's Manchester United. Big stupid fuckwit getting to the edge of the box and launching a counter-attack with a throw over the halfway line. Now, I'm not saying Senna Lemons has got a throw over the halfway line, but the threat of a kick or anything, we've got pace. Like, I tell you what, if you do that and you score 1 goal, and let's say it's Mbumo, right? For argument's sake, you throw a ball to Mbumo, you kick a ball to Mbumo, you score from it. What do you think happens in the next game? What do you think happens when you go and put Mbumo on the halfway line in the next game? Are they leaving one back? No, they're going to leave 2 back. Well, you start making the opposition think about what you're going to do. That's playing with risk. That's playing things a little bit riskier. They're already down a man. This is a free swing. It goes down the fucking halfway line.
With obviously the 10 men, 11 men situation, we've sort of covered there, and we've gone into some of the risk stuff. First 10, 20 minutes, it seems like every single time certainly recently, we go to St James's Park, I don't know if we'd say we're sort of surprised by it, but we're unable to match what they do in terms of intensity and energy. And they missed, there's no Gamares playing today, so he's one of the big sort of engines in there that they didn't have. And yet they still had that overwhelming, those runs in behind, and they just make the pass every time. You've got Alanga and Gordon just making runs in behind. They're playing the balls. They're finding space in the midfield. Is it just a personnel thing? Is that a tactical thing? Why is it for the first 20 minutes almost every season at St James's Park, we look like we're just getting out of bed and they're at full pace?
There's a few things at play. United have come to town. The crowd's up for it. You could hear the crowd up for it in the first 10 minutes. They shut up after about 20 minutes because they all got tired or cold because they didn't have a shirt on. But if you watch Newcastle, that's how they start every game at St James's Park. It's not necessarily, maybe it was a little bit heightened because it was United, but that is generally how they start games. When I did my preview yesterday, I was like, this is how the game's going to start for the first 15, 20 minutes. It's exactly how it started because that's how they play. You have to ride that storm, but then you have to counter and hit them back with that. And we did. And after 20 minutes or so, we started to establish a little bit of play in their half. But we didn't take advantage of it. And there's one thing, having a bit of a slower build-up and forcing an opposition back and then starting to do crosses from weird areas. But let me ask you this. How many times did you see us trying to pass it into a congested area rather than see someone either cross it from that deep, outside the box, not just outside the box, but outside of the box deep sort of one, or one from the half space? Or how many times did you see someone attack the byline and try and check one back towards the penalty spot? It didn't happen. That to me was the disappointing thing. There was a couple of shots that Sesko managed to get off, but how many times did we just stick the ball in the mixer? And what did our goal come from? People be like, oh, you got Dan Burn in there, you don't really want to be throwing loads in. All right, cool, yeah, but how did our goal come about? Came from a cross. So, we didn't at any point, it took us half an hour to figure out we was allowed to cross it against Crystal Palace at weekend. But at no point tonight did United go, I'm just going to put a couple of early ones in. Just get it out into an area, and while their defence is outside of the box, just flash one right across the penalty spot to see if we can get a toe on it. We didn't do it once. Not once did we cross a ball in behind while it was still retreating. Not once. And then you see the difference with what they did. That's what they were doing. They were asking questions. They were cutting to the byline. They were runners ahead of the ball, yeah, but then when they got on the ball, what were they doing? They were cutting it back. And they were asking us questions. We didn't do that. It's been stale for 3-4 weeks, and it's been the same reasons, same things.
And the few times we did cross the ball, like you said, they weren't those kind of penetrating in behind early balls, but Yora had the best chance of the game, I would say, with that header on the 6-yard line. Ugarte had a looping header that, again, was never going in, but he won the ball, and he's not Dan Burns' height, as you said. There surely should have been some more chances from that. Just in terms of the way Newcastle approached the game after they went down to 10 men, because I don't know if you watched it, I mentioned it loads on the watch time, but the game against Liverpool right at the start of the season where Newcastle had 10 men for loads of it, and they did a similar thing where they didn't, for most of it anyway, I know they did sit back eventually, but they kept a high line. They still stopped, United being able to sort of just hold the ball, horseshoe it around the edge of the box, get balls in. They play in a way that not every team does play when they go down to 10 men. Do you think we didn't expect that? Why do you think we struggle with that so much? Because, like you said, we didn't play those balls in behind. They were playing a high line, but we offered no threat over and through. Do you think that caught us off guard? Maybe we thought they're down to 10 men, they'll sit back on the edge of their own box now.
Yeah, but if they did, we had no plan for that either. I don't know, because Crystal Palace, we didn't ask them questions when they were at 11 men, and they were playing a high line, and we were begging for a ball in behind, in between a fullback and a centre half. Just go and stick one in there, and we didn't. You know, and the same thing tonight. We took far too many touches. Sometimes you just got to move the ball forward quick. You know, and that doesn't mean just get into a fucking channel. That means move it forward quick, where you can do something about it. Because actually, there was at times I thought our press looked really good. At times, I know you wouldn't have had the commentary on, but that Alan McCoy gets wanked into oblivion, and some of the shit he was coming out with was a joke. Like Dan Burns elbowed Luke Shaw, and he's like, "Oh, there's nothing in it." And then do you remember the push from Mbumo on? I think it was on Lewis Hall on the sideline, which was not a push, by the way.
Nothing.
It was like, "Oh, he's been stupid there," you know, because it's a clear push, and you're like, nonsense. I thought it was a soft red, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, is he dived? Yeah, you can't argue that he's not. And people will go back and be like, there is the slightest bit of contact. Doesn't mean it's not a dive. It is a dive. But honestly, Cunha dived at one point. Mazraoui dived at one point. They had players that dived all the way through the game. Yeah. Like, if that's the threshold for a yellow card, shit, these games are going to be finishing with fucking 8 and 9 men.
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? Because the ref, on one hand, was giving a free kick every time anyone went down for anything, and yet you get it slightly wrong, and you're booked and you're off. It was a sort of slightly bizarre line that the ref was holding. Just finally then, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to decide this second what you think of Michael Carrick and his future, but I'm sure you'll have seen it whether you did a live or your videos, or whether, you know, looking at the comments in our videos over the watch along and the review. Of course, there are plenty of people wanting to draw an entire conclusion from this game or from the last few games. Where are you at with how does this affect you, should I say, in terms of your rating of Michael Carrick? As you've said, it's not the first game where you've thought we've not done enough here and we could have been braver. Does this sort of start to tarnish things for you?
No, I like to think, I mean, people will absolutely disagree, but I like to think I'm quite down the middle. You know, I was quite down the middle with Amorim. Clearly, he wasn't getting a tune out of this team. I'm quite down the middle with Michael Carrick. I think there's no obvious choice that comes in and obviously does better than him. I think if you zoomed out and had a look at the bigger picture, he's doing a great job. Yes, there's not been the results you would hope for, the performances, despite the results that you would hope for. And it was a great opportunity tonight to really basically cement third place without a shadow of a doubt. And, you know, I think the realities of the squad are maybe coming home to roost a touch as well. You've got to remember, this is a squad that finished 15th last season, that has exited the first round of every trophy we've been in, that sacked our manager, you know, 8 weeks ago or whatever it was. That's who we are right now. We're not a team that's the third best in the country, or shouldn't be. I mean, you can probably argue the case that we are, but how the fuck are we? Lost to Grimsby. You know, we're playing 40 matches this season. We didn't win back-to-back games until Christmas, after our manager had been here nearly a year. Like, if we want to be real, that's who we are right now. That's the football team we are right now. Can't get too upset about Michael Carrick for dropping points in 2 out of 8, is it? He's had?
Yeah.
Bit mental, that. But at the same time, let's be honest about the good and the bad that he's done, or the good that he's done and perhaps the mistakes that he's made. You know, did you expect him to come in and be flawless? I didn't. If you did, probably want to be putting a crack pipe down, because there's a reality about this squad. If you've got to bring on Malacia, you're probably not looking at an all-time squad. I can't imagine Michael Carrick was like, I can't wait to throw him in and see what he's all about. But at the same time, was there better options we could have used? I feel like probably. Are we missing Martinez? Yeah. Maybe that's a little bit of why we've looked a little bit flat, because he will get the ball forward a hell of a lot quicker than Maguire and Euro will. Are we missing someone like Dorgu for just like impact? Just smashing into fuckers.
Matching their energy as well.
Are we missing an option off the bench because it ain't Joshua Zirkzee, mate? Like, if you're relying on Joshua Zirkzee and Ugarte to score you a goal, you might as well bring me and you on, right? Because they're not going to score you a goal. Not reliably, at least, anyway. So, you know, is there a limitation to Michael Carrick as a manager? Yeah, of course there is. Is there a limitation to this squad? Yeah. End of the day. doesn't mean we're not disappointed with the fucking result and performance, though.
Right, cheers, Steve. Thank you, as always. Thank you for joining us at home as well. Get your thoughts in the comments below. Is this a bit of a reality check? Is this just where this squad is at? Is the results and the performances that we've seen over the last couple of months as good as we could have possibly hoped for, and we're just starting to see the level that we're at? Or should we have done more? Should Carrick have done more? Have the players let themselves down, or a little bit of everything? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you in a bit.